Hi, welcome to this episode where we're going to handle the pagination of our content. So like we said in our plans, we need to handle the pagination, like the number of articles we display per page, and then we should be able to navigate the pages. We have the same idea for the content at the administration side. So since this is going to be the same principle, if we code it at one side, it should be reusable on the other sides. So let's start from the one at the home page. Let's start handling this here. So the pagination goes in two main folds. So the first fold is to handle the algorithm that fetches the actual data. So what that means is that the articles we fetch are based on the page we are on. What exact articles do we fetch must be calculated. So that's what I call the fetching aspect. So we need to, what exactly do we fetch? What are we supposed to fetch based on the page we are on? So that's the first fold. And the second fold is the display of the pagination and the navigation. The display and navigation of the actual pages. Yes. So the display and navigation of the actual pages. So once we know what content do we display, how do we first of all display that content, then allow the user to navigate from one page to another and so on. So let's get started and see how to implement that. So we'll head over to our index page, the index.php page. This is where we actually fetch the articles. So the idea, the basic idea is that instead of us to select this, so we'll bring this to the next line so that we see clearly what we are doing. So we select and we order by ID descending, then we limit 3 articles. So the pre-work is going to be on how this query works. So if I change this query, for example, to limiting to 4, I should have a change in the list of posts I have. So it reloads, I get up to 4 posts. So if I change it to 2, we should have only 2 articles. That's it. So it means we can set a limit of number of articles we want. So let's start from that by saying, okay, we want a limit of articles. So that's what we could call a limit per page. Limit per page, let's say 4, right? So instead of us to write, so we said 3, so we write 3. Instead of us to write the 3 right here, we could actually pass in this variable. So if we reload, we should get 3 articles. So by changing this parameter, it means there's a way for us to affect the number of articles that are fetched from the database. So that's the first aspect. And once we have that, the next thing we would like to know is what page are we on, right? Are we on page 1, page 2? So in this case here, we are fetching this because these are the first articles we got based on this query here, this order here. So we need to know what page we are on. So we need to get the page 2. The page is supposed to be gotten from the click on this navigation, and to navigate we'll have to pass, or we might, depends on how you implement it, we'll pass, in our case we'll pass an ID, a page query string, which will have a number like 1, 2 if you are on page 1, or page 2, and page 3 if you're on number 3 if you're on page 3, and so on. So it means we'll expect a query string page. So you have to be specific on that, called page. So that query string, if it exists, if it's set super global variable get, so it is going to be passed through the URL, so we'll find it there. So if it's set to get, so we can do the question mark, cast it to an integer. It has to be an integer all the time. Then we get it, we remove the is set. So otherwise, Otherwise, we assume we are on the first page. So it means even if you do not indicate that we are on the first page here by adding question mark page equals to 1, it's the same as just visiting the index. So we are on the page 1. So we don't save this. So by default, we are on page 1. So if you are on page 1, how do we get the content for each page? So at this point, we would like to know, okay, if you are on page 1, we should get, let's say, from article 1 to article 3. And when we move to page 2, we should get from article 4 to article 6 or 7 or 8, so and so on. So it means our limit has an issue because so far it only gets 3 articles, but 3 articles from where? So we need to give, so I think this is actually, and yes, this should be the limit of articles. So that's the number of articles we want. So yes, that's the limit. So we need to find out the initial starting, so the starting point. So start point. So where do we start fetching from? So the start point actually is not to, let's assume we start from 0, right? We start from the first article, so I will enter it 1. So we'll improve this limit because my SQL has the possibility of giving an interval. So it's like from here, limit from here to here. So from this starting point to the number of pages we want. So it means like jump to this number of articles and take 3 or this number of articles. So we start from a given ID, a given number of rows. From the first row, take 3 articles. That's the limit per page. And let's go ahead and reload and see what we have. So you see, it changes. So if I change this number into something like this, then we get nothing because we don't have enough articles. So let me change it into 3, just say, and let's see what we have. So we just get 1 article. It means after the 3rd article, we have only 1 that follows. So that's after the 4th article. So also this anyway depends. So this actually gives you an idea of what we are talking about. So how do we get this number to change? Because if you are on the first page, it should take from the initial article based on the order of selection. And then if you move to the next page, page 2, it should also change from the pages, from the articles, from the pages 1 to the number of articles we want per page. So to do that, we'll have to calculate this limit to handle it automatically. And to get it working like that, we have to use some special formula, which is we have how many, the actual page number we are on, which is page. So if you are on a page 1, we do -1, right? Page 1 times the limit per page. So let's look at it. Let's assume we just want, if we are on page 1, we want to select from 0 to 3, right? So if we set just page 1 from 0 to 3, if it is 1, we multiply that to 1 to the limit per page, that's 3. So we are going to get 3 here, right? So that's if I did not use this -1. So if you are on page 1, this is going to be page 1 times the number per page. So on page 1, we are going to get 1, that's 1 times 3, that's 3. So we are going to get from starting point 3 to 0 to the number of pages we want, the number of articles, which is 3. So that makes it erroneous because it means we are going to jump 3 articles behind. So to fix that issue, we add this minus which cancel this page and makes it 0. So at the starting point, this value is going to be 0. So we are going to start from 0 to the limit of pages, and this will give us what we want. So if you change it to page 2, this is going to be 1. Then we are going to get from article 3, move on. So after the 3 and go on. So this is how the formula works. So once we have that, we can now reload and see exactly. So now let me pass the page. So page 2, what do we have? We have page 2. So that's it. So once that's done, so what happens if I go to page 3? I won't get any article. That is it. So there's nothing over there. So we could add some condition to find out if there's no article. So if it is empty, the query is empty, there's no article. So we are definitely on an exaggerated page, so we can give some error. So once that's done, our articles now are fetched based on the pagination conditions. So we can go ahead now and handle how we display it. So basically, we need to know the number of pages we'll get in all. So because if we come to the pagination part, here we have a list of pages. So let's say page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. And how do we know the pages we have? How do we know how many pages we have? Because you cannot manually write 1, 2, 3. So you might kind of need to know if you are fetching 3 articles per page and we have, let's say, 10 articles. So how many pages do we need to display these 10 articles with 3 articles per page? So definitely we need to divide the total number of articles we have. So it means we need to get a total number of articles in the first position and divide it by the number of articles per page. So we have to make a query for that. So let me prepare another statement right on top here, and then I will do select all from. So here we don't limit the articles we want all articles. So once that, let's say statement 0, that's to get us to get the total number of articles. So here when I do this, I'll say total number articles, and I think PDO fetch or. So here, instead of us to use PDO fetch or, we rather use PDO statement to row count, and there's no need to add this condition. So we get the total number of articles here, and we already have the number of articles we have per page, so we can calculate the total number of pages. So we can say number of pages is equals to, then this is going to be the total number of articles divided by the limit per page. So by doing so, we should have now this number. This number being set, we can now allow ourselves to come here and create a for loop. So we like PHP for. So here we use a for loop and we set an initial variable and we set it to 1 because we want to go through from 1. We cannot display page 0, 2 and so on, 0, 1 also. So for page ID equals to 1 and the I less than or equals to the total number of pages. So we'll go through that, so that's I. And if as far as we haven't reached the number of pages, we should be incrementing that I variable. So it's a shorthand. We close this here. So as soon as we go through this, let me close the shorthand and the for. So as we are going through it, now we can display an li with the index of the page we are on, like this. So this being said, if we go back to our index page, so we have undefined variable statement, statement. That's which line 10. So here, so it's not statement, it's statement 0. We are using statement 0 here to statement 0, just to make the difference between this statement for this query and the other one. So let me go ahead. So once we reload, we can see now we have one page. So but obviously it doesn't make sense, because we cannot have one page, because it seems we still have some articles hidden over there. But the only thing is we could not get it because they are not up to 3. So probably we have 1 or 2 articles left. So if I count the articles we have in our table, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 articles. So if there is 1 article left, so that makes it sound like we don't have 1 page. It's like we have 1.5 pages. So to prove that, let's actually echo what we have in the total number of pages. No, right? Let's click on what this calculation gives. So let me do var dump and see the number of pages we get exactly. So if I do refresh, so wow, it seems like indeed I'm getting some kind of 1.5 pages. So there's this 33, 333 and so on. So this actually could help. So if we assume, okay, this, let's say, okay, ignore that it's not up to 1 page, just add it up and let it be up to 1 page. So to make that happen, we'll use a function called ceil. So it allows us to kind of round the value to the highest possible. So by doing that, if we reload now, we should get 2 instead of 1 point something. Yes. And it is important for us to even seal it like this, because we don't want to have point something, since we are using this number to go through a for loop. So it is good to have it sealed. So now once we have that, if we reload, we should have page 1 and page 2. That's being said, so all we have to do now is, when we are displaying these links, we should now put in the index page. That's the page on which the articles are displayed, and then we add the ID, the query string of page, and the value of the page is simply going to be the ID here. So by doing so, if I refresh and now mouse over on each one of these numbers, I should see that it gives me the page 1 and page 2. If I click, now I see the articles specific to that page, and that's simply the basic principle. So by doing so, now we should be able to handle the next and preview. So for the next and preview, the idea is simple. We go to next if there's any page after the current page, and we go to previous if there's any page before the current page. So basically that's the idea. Otherwise the link shouldn't bring anything. So how do we do that? So let's start from the next. So we need to get the current page. So if current page is less than, so strictly less than the number of pages, so we do like if statement. So put it in, let me separate it well. So we say PHP shorthand if statement. So if the current page, so the current page is the variable we have here, which is page, right? So if page is less than, strictly less than the number of pages, so it means after the current page there are some other pages. Otherwise this should be probably equals to the page. So we can make it like this, and now we can display next. So PHP and if statement. All right, so if there's any page after this page, so let's show the next button. So you can see here it doesn't show next because after the current page there's no other page. So here I can now add the index.php and then query string page equals to, so instead of us to simply write page like this, we'll write page +1 or simply increment it, so ++ or +1. So it means we are moving next, not I, sorry. So we rather take page, so that's the current page. So we take the current page and we add 1, so that will take us to the actual next page. So if we do that, we have nothing. If I go on the page 1, we should see next show up. So here I can see it's bringing me to page 1. That is not what I am expecting. So I'm saying page, so let me do +1 actually and see. Exactly. So I don't know why that wasn't working. So I guess because I'm in an echo. So let me add space and try it again and see what happens. So is this surprising? Leave it in the comment section. What do you think? What is going on here? Let's think about this again. So by using the plus it works, but increment doesn't work. So let me try pre-increment like this. What do we have? Oh, this works. This works, man. This works, guys. So you tell me what is going on with the post increment. I think we should think about pre-increment and post increment. What are the limit, the challenges, the differences actually? What are the differences, and why is it that pre-increment works here and not post increment? So let's think about it. So in our case, if we have any next page, we show the next page. Otherwise, we don't show next page. So we do the same thing here for the previous page. So we take this guy and we put it here. Then I can get rid of this part. So here, not less than, strictly less than, but strictly greater than. So if the current page is strictly greater than the number of pages, then we can do that, and we do post pre-decrement. So, and here we go. Here on page 1, there's no previous page. We go to the next page, and there's, okay, I think I am messing myself up here. So what we want to do is find out if the current page is greater than, strictly greater than, then yes, the current page is strictly greater than the number of pages. That can't be because, let me add equals to, because okay, so if we are on page 2, we have previous page, yes, exactly, and there's no previous page, yes, because it can't be strictly greater than, because imagine current page, we can't go beyond the number of pages we have, so it's either equals to, or the current page, yeah. There's a challenge here. I think I'm a bit tired. All right, so the only condition we could do, if you look at it very well, the only thing is, if as soon as we move more than 1 inch, so as soon as we just make a step of moving from the initial page, definitely there are previous pages. Either we move 10,000 steps ahead, definitely we've moved beyond the first page, so there are definitely previous pages. So the condition is simply to check if the current page is more than 1. It's completely strictly greater than 1. So it means if we move to more than the first page, beyond the first page, then there should be a previous. So the most important thing is to make sure we are coming back to current page decremented from 1. So we always go back 1 step ahead. So it means you could implement possibilities of saying, let's say, going 2 steps ahead by making this -2, right? So that's basically the idea. So if we do that now, we refresh our page, we should now be able to go back to the page 1. And once we are on page 1, 1 is not strictly greater than 1 because that's the condition here. So then we don't need to go to previous page. It means we are on the initial page. So as soon as we move on, it comes back. So there's no next again. So here we have next showing. I was expecting the next not to show, and let me check my condition, which says that the page, the current page, must be strictly less than the number of pages. Okay, so if it is strictly less than, then we display. But what if it is equals to? It shouldn't. So that's one challenge. So strictly, if page is less than, so okay, so I think okay, let me see this if I'm getting myself wrong or not. So we do -1. So if we refresh, you see, if we go to page 2, we don't have next. Go to page 1, we don't have. So yes, this will bring us to the actual debate I'm launching right under this comment. So remember, this variable page has been declared here, and it is now being used as a global variable throughout this page. So if the modification to this page happens either here or the other side, it still applies to the whole page. So when we do post pre-increment, it means we are actually affecting this variable right before we even get to this point. So it means when we are on the first, we go to the second page like this. So by the time the page loads, it will create a post increment of the variable page, making it number 3, and 3 is still less bigger than the 2, so it will assume there's a next page. You get that? So that's the challenge here. So it means we definitely have to go with the +1 and -1 in this condition. So this whole thing depends on also how you structure your code. So depending on the technologies you use as well, but the idea, the basic idea around it is just to have these calculations made, and these various elements are needed. So the total number of pages, the number of pages, so the total number of articles, the number of pages, so that is calculated automatically, the starting point, and the limit of articles per page, and all this is the same principle all over. Whatever the programming language you use, you definitely work around this basic principle. So that's it for now. So you can now play with this number all over the place. So if I change it into 7, you could see that we just have 1 page. Like see, so, and we are not getting anything on page 2. So we can go back to page 1, and now we have our articles. So you can play with this whole thing. Here we can see that we are having 1. So you can add a condition to see if we have more than 1 pages before we can go ahead and display the pagination. So if we have less than 1, I mean if you have just 1 page, then we don't need to display the pagination. So I'll leave that to you as an assignment. So enjoy yourself on it, and see you in the next episode, where we are going to implement the same thing for the administration right here. And that's it. Thank you for watching this one. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you in the next episode.